You have been set apart in a way that does not always look dramatic at first, but it is never ordinary. There are seasons when the heart feels overlooked, yet heaven is already moving with quiet certainty. You may have called it waiting, disappointment, or delay, but there are moments when what is happening is actually preparation. The wrong doors closing have not erased your future. The silence you felt was not abandonment. It was a clearing. It was a making room. It was the unseen hand of God arranging what your eyes could not yet name. Even now, before anything changes outwardly, something inside you is being softened toward hope. You are not being passed over. You are being readied. You are not forgotten. You are being kept. The ache in you has been speaking for a long time, and God has not ignored a single word of it. Somewhere in the hidden place, your tears have already been counted. Somewhere in the unseen place, your name has already been held with tenderness. And because of that, this is not a message of maybe. It is a message of holy nearness. There is a kind of love that does not rush in with noise, because it comes with purpose. It approaches the way dawn approaches a sleeping room, touching the edges first, then filling the space with light. You know how a room can feel heavy before the curtains are opened, how the air itself seems to wait for a new day. That is what this season has felt like in your spirit. You have been carrying a quiet expectancy, even if you did not call it that. You have been sensing that your life is not meant to remain locked in yesterday's weather. The heart knows when it has outgrown a place of scarcity. The heart knows when it is being invited towards something truer, steadier, and cleaner. This is why certain disappointments felt sharper than they should have. They were not just losses, they were separations. God was not only protecting you from what was wrong, He was preserving your ability to recognize what is real. There is a difference between being wanted and being cherished. There is a difference between being noticed and being known. And what is coming towards you carries the weight of being known. You may have wondered why the familiar patterns kept repeating, why the almosts lingered, why the moments of interest never became the peace you were actually seeking. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you. And strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment. The answer is gentler than you think. God was not confusing you. He was refining your discernment. Like a lamp placed in a dark hallway, truth has been showing you where the weak places are. You may have had to walk slowly because your spirit would not settle for appearances. That was not stubbornness. That was wisdom being born in you. The body can feel the strain of that kind of waiting, especially when the chest tightens and the mind keeps replaying what was never secured. But even that strain has meaning. It is the body learning not to settle for half-love. It is the soul learning to pause before giving its trust away. You are being healed of the urge to chase what cannot carry you. You are being released from the pressure to prove your worth. And in that release, room is being made for a love that does not need to be begged into staying. There is a biblical echo here, and it is quieter than the loud promises people like to repeat. Joseph was not forgotten in the prison simply because his season had not yet turned. Ruth was not ignored in the field simply because the right eyes had not yet rested on her. Esther was not prepared in the palace for nothing. In each story, there was a hidden hand arranging timing, character, and recognition. Your life has carried a similar pattern. The doors that did not open on time were not proof that you were unloved. They were proof that timing matters when what is being built is sacred. Even your ordinary routines have been part of this formation. The way you get up, make coffee, answer messages, and sit with your own thoughts has become a kind of altar. God meets you in those unremarkable places. He meets you before the phone lights up. He meets you before the answer arrives. He meets you while your hands are still empty enough to receive. That is why you have felt both tired and strangely hopeful. Tired, because waiting costs something. Hopeful, because your spirit knows a promise can be near, even when it is not yet visible. So breathe slowly, and let this settle in your chest. The kind of love that is approaching you does not need you to become someone else first. It does not require you to shrink, perform, or disappear. It will not ask you to translate your softness into usefulness. It will not confuse your silence for absence, or your depth for complexity that must be fixed. What God has blessed will not need to be forced into place. What is coming will recognize your sincerity without punishing your tenderness. You have spent enough nights wondering whether you were too much, too sensitive, too quiet, too open, or too late. Heaven is answering those questions with a calm no. You were never too much for what was meant for you. You were simply outgrowing what could not hold your full heart. There is a difference between being tolerated and being treasured. There is a difference between being chosen in words and being chosen in character. And the blessing over your life has been moving toward the second one all along. Look at the way the day begins when the light slips across a table and lands on what was hidden in shadow. A glass, a book, a key, even a small scratch in the wood suddenly becomes visible. That is what is happening inside you now. Things you could not name before are becoming clear. Places where you settled for less are becoming obvious. Patterns that once felt normal are now revealing their cost. This clarity is not meant to shame you. It is meant to free you. The heart cannot welcome a true love while still confusing old pain for familiarity. So God has been teaching you to see differently. He has been sharpening your sight without hardening your heart. He has been showing you that peace is not boring and steadiness is not lack. In fact, the calmer this coming love feels, the more dangerous it is to your old survival habits. You may notice yourself resisting what is healthy simply because it does not feel like a struggle. That resistance is not failure. It is evidence that your nervous system has been trained by too much uncertainty. But the training is changing. The room is changing. The light is changing. And the one approaching will not ask you to remain in the dimness. There is also something beautiful happening in your inner language. You are beginning to speak to yourself with more honesty than before. Not always perfectly, not always boldly, but more honestly. You are naming what hurts without making it your identity. You are naming what you hope for without demanding proof every second. You are naming the shape of the love you need, and that matters. Because what is true in the soul begins to influence what is tolerated in the life. If you have felt your appetite for shallow connection decrease, that is not pride, that is maturity. If you have felt less enchanted by attention that disappears quickly, that is not coldness, that is discernment. God is teaching you the difference between chemistry and covenant, between excitement and stability, between being seen for a moment and being held with faithfulness. Your spirit is not asking for fantasy, it is asking for truth. And truth has a way of arriving with calm hands, not frantic ones. That calm is part of the blessing, even if it takes time for you to trust it. The old ache still tries to speak sometimes, especially in the quiet hours when the house is still and the heart is loud. It whispers that maybe you have imagined too much, hoped too freely, waited too long. But that voice is not the final authority over you. The final word belongs to God, and his voice is steadier than your fear. He has not built your life to end in almost. He has not shaped your tenderness for disappointment. He has not trained your spirit to recognize depth, only to leave you hungry forever. What is being prepared for you carries the weight of answer, not confusion. It may arrive in a way that surprises you, because God often likes to be more precise than your expectations. The person, the connection, the timing, the peace surrounding it may not match the picture you drew in your mind, but it will match the hunger beneath the picture. That is the deeper mercy. The answer is not just to what you asked for, it is to what your soul has been quietly asking for beneath the words. Take a slow breath and notice how your body responds when you imagine being safe in love. Maybe your shoulders soften a little. Maybe your jaw lets go. Maybe your stomach, which has carried so much anticipation, begins to unclench. These small responses matter. They are the body's testimony that peace is not foreign. They are the body's memory of what it was designed to receive. You do not have to rush this feeling. Let it arrive like warmth after cold wind. Let it stay for a moment without trying to explain it away. There is a holy simplicity in being loved without bargaining. There is a holy relief in being met without having to perform a rescue of yourself first. And God is not offended by your desire for that kind of relief. He is the one who placed the desire there, so when peace starts to feel more attractive than drama, do not turn back. When steadiness starts to feel like home, do not apologize for it. Your heart is not becoming naive. It is becoming clear. If any of this has landed deep in you, if you felt your chest loosen even once while reading, type 888 in the comments. Let that simple code stand as a quiet agreement that overflow is near, that God is already arranging what you cannot yet hold. Do not overcomplicate the moment. Just write it and let the written words become a small witness to the turning that is already underway. Your fingers typing, it can become a sign that you are no longer arguing with hope. Write 888, then come back to me. That tiny response matters more than it looks like it should. It is not a trick. It is a marker. It says you have heard something, and the hearing has touched you. And when you return, let yourself keep listening as though the next sentence might be the one that steadies your whole week. There are days when a person carries a smile that other people trust, while inside they are barely holding the pieces together. Maybe that has been you. Maybe you have learned how to keep functioning while your inner life was asking for gentleness. Maybe you have done the noble thing of showing up anyway, answering messages, finishing tasks, and acting composed while the deeper part of you was still waiting for care. That kind of endurance does not go unnoticed by God. It may be hidden from people, but it is not hidden from Him. And because it is not hidden, it can be answered. There is a love approaching that will not require you to translate your exhaustion into strength before it can stay. It will not only admire your resilience, it will honor your need. That matters because the heart can only rest where it is not performing. The blessing over your life is not asking you to become less human. It is inviting you to become more at peace in your own humanity. Think about a window after rain. The outside world may still be wet, but the glass begins to clear enough for you to see trees, rooftops, and moving light again. That is what healing often feels like. Not a sudden erasing of everything, but a clearing that lets you see what was always there. You are in that kind of clearing. The past still exists, but it no longer has to define the view. The bruises still happened, but they no longer have the final say about your future. This is where God's patience becomes personal. He does not force new love into a heart that is still bleeding without tending it first. He tends it. He cleans the glass. He lets the fog lift. He teaches you that wanting something pure is not childish. It is a sign that your soul is remembering its own dignity, and dignity changes the way you receive what comes next. Maybe you have noticed that certain conversations now feel flatter than before. Things that once held your attention lose their shine quickly. That can be unsettling when you first notice it, because it means your appetite is changing. But this is how growth often feels. The old food no longer satisfies, and the new food has not yet fully arrived. In that space, many people panic and go back to what is familiar. You are being invited to do something else. Stay with the hunger. Stay with the longing. Let it become a prayer rather than a problem. God knows how to feed a heart that has outgrown cheap substitutes. He knows how to give substance where there was only excitement. He knows how to turn a tired waiting season into a place of quiet readiness. And readiness is not passive. It is the deep posture of a heart that has stopped bargaining with less. Even now, something in you is learning that its worth is not measured by who stayed, but by who God has prepared. There are signs in the way you have been protecting your inner life lately. You may not have called it protection, but it is there in the pauses before you answer, in the boundaries you are finally willing to set, in the silence you no longer fill just to avoid being alone with yourself. This is not withdrawal, it is healing with edges. It is the soul reclaiming its right to be careful. And careful is not the same as closed. The right love will recognize the difference immediately. It will not shame your boundaries. It will not speed past your questions. It will not act offended that you need consistency. What God is blessing in you is the capacity to receive without losing yourself. That is important, because love without safety becomes a wound, and the Lord has never called you to live in a wound as though it were destiny. He is teaching you that peace is not a luxury. It is part of the promise. The life ahead of you is being cleared for a love that can carry both tenderness and truth. There is a moment in the early morning when the house is not yet awake, and you can hear the refrigerator hum, the faint movement of traffic far away, and your own breathing. In that stillness, the mind often becomes honest. It remembers what the day keeps distracting it from. It remembers the unanswered longing, the prayer you spoke in the dark, the sentence you could not say to anyone else. That is why this season has felt so intimate. God has been meeting you in the exact place where you are most yourself. Not in performance, not in appearance, but in the unguarded center. And in that center, He has been whispering that your future is not empty. Your future is occupied by His preparation. You do not need to rush toward it as though you are late. You only need to keep your heart open enough to recognize it when it begins to arrive. What is coming may not arrive with spectacle. It may arrive with peace first, and peace is often the most reliable sign that love is telling the truth. You may have carried a quiet fear that if you hope too strongly, you will be embarrassed again, that fear has tried to make caution feel like wisdom and numbness feel like safety. But God is not leading you into numbness. He is leading you into discernment that still has a pulse. There is a great difference between being guarded and being wise. Guardedness expects betrayal everywhere. Wisdom recognizes pattern, listens carefully, and still remains open to what is good. You are learning wisdom in your bones. That is why some invitations no longer pull at you the way they used to. That is why you are less dazzled by intensity and more drawn to consistency. That is why your spirit flinches at instability even when your mind tries to romanticize it. The Lord is strengthening your capacity to choose what aligns with your healing. That choice is a form of worship. It says you believe your life is worth more than repetition. It says you believe God can bless you with what does not undo you. There is a way a path looks at dusk, when the stones and edges become harder to distinguish, and you can only keep walking by trusting the shape you know is there. Your season has had that feeling, not total darkness, but enough dimness to make every step intentional, and in intentional walking, your heart has changed. You have stopped assuming that every closed door means rejection. You have started learning that some closed doors are mercy. You have stopped confusing delay with denial. You have started noticing that God can be active in the waiting in ways that are impossible to measure from the outside. That inner shift is not small. It is the architecture of readiness. The person who comes into your life next will not be entering an untouched field. They will be entering a field that has already been plowed by patience, watered by tears, and guarded by prayer. That is why this love will not feel accidental. It will feel prepared. When the right person approaches, there will be a recognition that is deeper than attraction and quieter than performance. It will not need to force its own importance. It will carry itself with steadiness. It will know how to wait for your trust rather than demanding it. It will know how to listen before speaking. It will know how to respect the sacredness of what you have guarded. This is not fantasy. It is the shape of blessing when God has been involved in the making. You have known connections that arrived fast and left confusion behind. This one is being shaped to do the opposite. It may feel almost ordinary at first, and that ordinariness is part of the miracle. Because what is healthy often arrives without needing to prove itself. It simply remains. It simply becomes a place where your breathing slows down and your soul stops bracing for impact. That kind of arrival is holy in its own right. There is a lamp on a table in the dark, and then there is the same lamp after the switch is turned on. Nothing about the lamp changed in substance, but everything about the room changed in relation to it. That is what the nearness of true love can do. It does not erase who you are. It reveals more of who you were always meant to be. You may find that your voice becomes gentler when you are no longer trying to defend yourself every moment. You may find that your laughter returns in places where it had gone quiet. You may find that your posture changes when you no longer have to prepare for being misunderstood. These are not small things. They are the visible effects of being held well. And if God is bringing someone into your life who helps reveal that steadiness, then the love itself is part of the testimony. It is not just a relationship. It is a return to ease. It is a return to honest joy. It is a return to the kind of peace that feels like you can finally rest your shoulders without fear. Type Estu Pronto in the comments. If the movement of this message has made something inside you, stand up and listen. Let the phrase be your way of naming readiness without pretending that everything is already finished. Write it as a present tense agreement, not as pressure, not as performance, but as a witness that your heart is no longer hiding from its own longing. Then come back to me, because what follows is not a new story, but the deepening of the same one. The recognition matters. The written word matters. The return matters. It is a small act, yet it says you are willing to meet the blessing with your own yes, and that yes can be quiet and still be real. When you come back, keep in mind that readiness does not mean control. It means you are available for what God is doing without needing to dictate every detail. There are people who have never seen the private cost of your patience, and because of that, they may never understand why you are so particular now. They may call you selective when you are really being protected. They may call you cautious when you are actually being restored. But God sees the hidden cost, and He sees the hidden courage. He sees the nights when you had to choose not to harden. He sees the mornings when you had to begin again without evidence. He sees the private refusal to settle for affection that could not become faithfulness. That refusal has become one of the quiet miracles of your life. It is not loud, but it is firm. It does not need applause to be sacred. And from that firmness, the next chapter is being drawn. Love is approaching you with a different vocabulary, one that sounds less like performance and more like presence. It will not ask you to abandon your discernment. It will honor it. It will not need you to become smaller. It will meet you where you are becoming whole. The old fear sometimes tells you that if something is truly good, it will be taken away before you can hold it. That fear is familiar to anyone who has loved with an unprotected heart. But fear is not prophecy. Fear is only a memory trying to speak louder than truth. God is capable of giving what remains. He is capable of establishing what lasts. He is capable of bringing you into a connection that does not begin with confusion and does not survive on uncertainty. This does not mean there will be no human learning, no growth, no moments of adjustment. It means the foundation itself will not be rotten. It means the center will be sound. It means you will not have to keep digging for signs of sincerity where sincerity is already living. That is a different kind of peace, and your spirit knows it when it sees it. The blessing has not abandoned the real world. It has entered it quietly, like light through a crack. You are learning to trust your own discernment, the way you once trusted other people's certainty. That is a profound shift. It means the voice inside you is becoming clearer than the voices outside you. It means you are no longer easily moved by appearances that do not match substance. It means your heart is beginning to recognize nourishment. Sometimes this appears as a simple refusal to answer a message that feels off. Sometimes it appears as a deep breath before saying yes. Sometimes it appears as a trembling willingness to keep hoping after disappointment. All of that matters. Your choices are becoming less reactive and more rooted, and rooted choices tend to grow healthy things. God is not merely sending a person, He is cultivating the space where that person can be received without fear and without fantasy. That cultivation takes time, but it is never wasted time. It is the slow mercy of preparation. Let your like be your amen without words, if something in this message confirmed what your spirit already knew. Not as a metric, not as a performance, but as an agreement that the truth has been named correctly. A quiet like can become a small altar of recognition when the heart does not need to explain itself. It says yes without noise. It says yes in the language of assent. It says yes to the possibility that God has been guiding you even when you could not trace the path. Give that silent amen if it is in you, and then keep listening, because an amen is not only an ending. Sometimes it is the beginning of alignment becoming visible. Sometimes it is the moment your inner resistance relaxes just enough to let peace in. There is someone who came to mind while these words were landing. Someone quietly tired, someone secretly seeking, someone who keeps carrying a posture nobody sees. Maybe that person works hard while feeling unseen. Maybe their silence has grown heavier than their speech. Maybe they smile in public but carry a private hunger for tenderness. Send this to them, not as a recommendation, as a delivery. The same way rain is not an opinion but a gift to the ground that needs it. This message may reach someone who cannot ask for it directly. You already know who that person is because their face appeared in your mind for a reason. Share it as care, not as noise. Let it arrive by appointment, the way mercy often does. And if you are that person yourself, receive it without guilt. Some messages are shared outward, and some are shared to the hidden room in the self that has been waiting longest. Before this closes, type "eu" so escolhido in the comments, not as a wish, not as a hope only, as confirmation. Let it name the identity that has been gathering quietly across this whole journey. The words matter because they answer the old story that said you were accidental, excessive, or overlooked. You are not writing to force a reality. You are writing to agree with what God has been forming. Write it slowly if you need to. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already beginning to believe. Then come back to me, because the seal of this recognition is not in the typing alone, but in the way your heart stands after it. When identity becomes clear, fear loses some of its language. When identity becomes clear, the heart stops begging to be introduced to itself. And that is part of the blessing returning to its proper place. Now look back over the path with gentleness. The waiting was not empty. The ache was not meaningless. The closed doors were not proof of rejection. The quiet was not proof of absence. The same God who watched over your tears was also shaping the conditions for joy. The same hand that withheld what could have wounded you is the hand now opening what can bless you. Even the places where you doubted have become part of the testimony, because doubt was never stronger than the one who held you through it. What seemed like delay was often protection. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.